One of the names I considered a must-have was Roddy Piper. Piper was the heel that helped make Hulk Hogan and the WWE's boom period in the mid-'80s. When we locked him in to cover 1984 for Timeline, the history of WWE, I was excited. This year was the biggie as far as I was concerned. 1984 set the stage for a lineage of things to come, not the least of which was the first Wrestlemania. Piper was integral in selling that landmark show. For total disclosure, I should admit that it cannot be overstated how much of a Piper mark I was as a kid. I was Piper for Halloween in sixth grade, but I was Piper for my childhood, much to my parents' dismay. Couldn't I have looked up to Terry Bradshaw, G.I. Joe, O.J. Simpson? No way. I had never seen anyone use their mouth to move so many people. Sure, they wanted to strangle him, but what a visceral reaction. It was a gift. It meant being noticed, though hated. It meant mattering to people. That's heavy shit for a kid looking to be noticed. Roddy was quite the performer in our interview setting as well. His dramatic pauses and keen, instinctual identification of moments is second to none. It's why Roddy was captivating in the ring, in the promo, in Hollywood, and on Timeline, the history of WWE. For over 3 hours, Roddy went right with me through everything and anything I brought up. It was one of those times where I wasn't hosting, I was chatting. The script and the clock were almost inconsequential. I was getting the straight dish, kind of, from Hot Rod. I say kind of because Roddy always blurred reality a bit, but I was certain I was getting the truth about everything I wanted. Plus, I didn't know if Roddy was intentionally exaggerating details. It's quite possible that everything Roddy told me is exactly as he remembered it. We talked for over 3 hours and covered this landmark year, and yet the one thing that has outlived the importance of that entire show is a single, murky revelation about Pat Patterson and a young Roddy at the Olympic Auditorium. The implication was big, and that moment got noticed all over the place, particularly in a large building in Stamford, Connecticut. We didn't go to any lengths to hide it. As a matter of fact, part of it was in the official trailer. Roddy's revelation was significant, and it was undoubtedly a selling point for the show. It was intriguing and moved Roddy a great deal while discussing it, but he stopped short of being explicit. Was it true? Was it irresponsible to put this in the show? No, I didn't think so. Actually, was what irresponsible to put in the show? The only concrete statements about the situation with Pat that came from Roddy's mouth were that he was a pretty kid at one time, and he may have did something to Pat, and it was awkward. All of this was an outgrowth of my asking about Pat as a booker and Roddy offering that Pat didn't like him. When I asked why, Piper had this confessional moment. While those are the only incriminating statements made in that part of the interview, it's something Roddy said later that was more telling. Roddy patted my leg at one point later on and jokingly asked me what I was doing later. Not working the Olympic Auditorium in 1972, that's for sure, I replied. Roddy laughed and said, and I brought knee pads. Who knew he'd become the boss? Do the work on your own. The word I got was that WWE was angry at Roddy after this moment on our show. I have no idea if they did any due diligence to find out if anything actually happened to Roddy while he was a young wrestler that may have scarred him. I just know his mouth was a threat to their publicly traded empire. Pun intended. Any anger directed at Roddy pissed me off. Roddy did not point a finger into the camera and spell out specific charges at Pat, like some other folks did circa 1992. Roddy actually assumed blame, painting himself like he did something stupid as a kid. I'm not sure that's necessarily the healthiest thing to do either, but to be mad at him for having a moment while exploring a painful memory is bullshit and a selfish stance. Moments like this are confirmation that historical retellings by WWE Network and any other shareholder-approved outlets wherein truth is secondary to liability will never be able to compete with ours. Having said all that, I'm not sure about Roddy's recollection being true, or at least having occurred as he stated. The timeline is weird, and I'm not sure they crossed paths in LA, as Pat spent most of his time in San Francisco for promoter Roy Shire. I don't know Roddy to have worked San Francisco, but who the hell am I to argue? I can say one thing, details to be debated perhaps. Roddy felt what he was saying. Something went down between he and Pat. Who knows what? In the WWE-produced show Legends House, which aired after our interview with Roddy but was taped beforehand, both he and Pat had to share a house with some other wrestling talent. I kept a keen eye on Roddy's and Pat's interaction on that reality show when it aired. He and Pat barely interacted with each other on camera. A couple of years after our work together, on July 31st, 2015, the world lost the greatest wrestling heel ever to hold a microphone. Roddy Piper had a heart attack in his sleep and shocked the wrestling world for the very last time. For all of the wackiness I'm discussing,
unfortunately, George Scott, I think George Scott's a hell of a man. I got into an unfortunate incident with his son. Okay, here we go. George Scott brought me into Charlotte, North Carolina, and gave me a push, and I owed him for that. There was this club called 2001: A Space Odyssey, and we all had Cadillacs at the time. And Jack Briscoe, George's son, got there somehow, and Jack Briscoe had a cast on his leg, and George's son said, we're all outside, and he says to me, window rolled up, I'm the reason, my dad's the reason you're here. So I hit the windshield, and I got through the windshield, but he lunged ahead. So Jack Briscoe, whose leg was bad, on a cast, was hobbling into the passenger side of my Cadillac. I got on my side, and I was going to take after him. However, when I hit the gas, the wheels were pointed this way, and I saw Jack going out the door, so I tried to catch him. So both of us rolled out the door, and I'll be damned if my Cadillac just didn't like a torpedo spearhead that kid's Cadillac, George Scott's kid. And so it was called the First National Cadillac Derby. And the Briscoes, and I went to court, and you know about it. And when I was in court, just before the court, the attorneys, George Scott, in front of the attorney and myself, said, you know, I'm responsible for bringing Roddy in here. And I said, you're right, sir. I apologize. And I said, I'll take what I can. I'm guilty, and I'll leave. And I will. There you go. You got your marker back, 100%. You said it. You were correct. You did bring me in. It did give me a hell of a push. That's the marker. You got it. So, but when he came to New York, his son's name was Byron. Well, he came to New York, but Byron had a big mouth and shooting his mouth off and was bringing that up again. And that got Rod angry.
He comes too, the kid?
Yeah, because it was like, and let me just really loosely, because I wasn't there on the bus, but like the kid was just trying to find out what he wanted to do for a living or whatever, and George came from Charlotte to New York, and his son kind of came along. I'm not sure what capacity, just, you know, maybe he was going to try to learn the business or something.
Right.
And he went out in the town drinking and shouldn't have done that one.
She's once again mouthing off about you. Now we're in WWF.
Yeah, now we're in WWF. And you know what? Everybody's, the working Charlotte and Atlanta at the same time was hell. And so when we got into this league, everybody was pretty amped up. I mean, like, you wouldn't...
How much is George responsible for at this time?
WrestleMania?
Yeah, shortly before, you know, 84. Is he working in concert with Vince, or is Vince kind of trusting him to do the matchmaking?
I think that it was for lack of a better word, but with respect, kind of a honeymoon era, honeymoon time. I got to give the credit to the proper people. The way I got that, it was Poughkeepsie, and I was walking down the hall, and George Scott, I'm making up 10 feet behind me, said, You want to fight Mr. T? Sure. I got to go to the bathroom.
Right.
It was no more than that. So again, I owe you, George.
First of all, why are they paired with? They're obviously not going to have any involvement in the angle that you've got going with Cindy and them. Is that all that?
Rock and roll connection, but you know, would be the rock and roll connection would be what they would put out as the press and why they're doing it. However, one of those fellows in there is a snake, and
Would it be someone who's currently employed by WWE? Would it be that guy?
That guy, he's at that time was working his way in through many different means, and soon he'll know it.
At this time, is this why he's eventually let go from?
Still there, as far as I know.
Well, I mean, at that time, the Freebirds came in and then one.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And then one came back, and
so the issue.
they went away. One to get rid of one, and then with the blessing of another chapter, came in another way, and it's politics. You know, I've never been much of a politician.
Right.
That's where I've always sucked. But I'll tell you something, and I'm ashamed to say it. This didn't not too long ago, maybe 2 or 3 WrestleManias ago. I was with Duggan, and I don't know, I was going up something, and this fella I'm talking about said, "Hey, Piper, you got an interview?" Ah, fuck. I run over, and and it was a rib. So I thought to myself, next time you get some gas, I want to burn his clothes, but I'm going to wait till he's in them. I'm not joking.
Is this? Did your heat? Was this the source of the heat? Had stuff happened before this, or you were angry?
I'll tell you, the first time I met this guy was in Atlanta, and his buddy was puking, and I'm taking a shower, and he comes in the shower, and he says, "Have you ever been pissed on by anybody in the shower?" I said, "Not by anybody that's alive." Now what do you want to do, asshole? You know, it's easy to be scare little ladies or whatever, you know. 50 times, Andre.
Okay.
I called Bruno a wop. You're picking on the wrong guy.
Is it known to all that he and Hogan have that relationship, or is he just kind of treated like another worker?
In the 84s?
Yes.
No, it's known. He's prominently, wait a second, not prominently, but he's always on, I was going to say in his dressing room, his right-hand man, and obvious, and, you know, help him around with stuff.
Is there any kind of some of that schoolyard animosity that might happen because you're Hogan's buddy, so you're seen as only that and not really going to be judged on merit?
Yeah, I think that some people, that's the way they keep a job. Now the reason Brutus the Barber became Brutus the Barber was in WrestleMania 3. I had a match, hair versus hair. Now, I've had a lot of hair versus hair matches, a lot with the Guerreros, and you find out one really important thing. If you win and you're given the clippers and it's sweaty, it's a bitch to cut that hair. It comes on. So I win, I'm like, "Hey, Brutus, why don't you look silly?" And he did, and I left, and that's how we got the name Brutus the Barber.
Brutus was on this show and told us that Louis, Pat's former partner, was a hairdresser.
That's correct.
So Pat gave him the moniker the Barber to honor Louis at the time. I don't know how true it is, but
well,
you know how that stuff goes.
I'll take that. Who gonna beat that junkyard dog? Who gonna beat that dog? Who gonna beat that junkyard dog? Who gonna beat that dog? Ted DiBiase will be down there and Hacksaw Tommy, sound like Zulu Dawn. Who gonna beat that junkyard dog? Who gonna beat that dog? And Ted DiBiase's a great wrestler, but he can't street fight real well. He gets knocked out 2 or 3 times on the way to the ring to get Junkyard Dog, and then, please come back, Junkyard, and get killed on the way back. But Junkyard Dog was, he's just a really good man. And he had a beautiful heart. He's a man that caught on in his part of the country and was the biggest star there ever. And sometimes, it's like little boxes, tiny boxes. I don't know how that song got so wonderful, but and who gonna beat that dog? And it worked for him. It gave him more money than he would have, I think, if he had done something else.
Was he tough to work with stylistically? Little.
Well, there you go. He didn't work at all.
I guess that's what I'm going for.
You really can't. Let's
like wrestling a couch.
Yeah, yes, a heavy one too. Let's get to. This happens a lot. I have some fun here, but I hear a lot of guys that aren't in the business where he's working and they're working. The terminology work is only applies to 2 people from professional wrestling that are inside the ring. Outside the ring, it's calling lying and manipulating. There's no such thing. Oh, he's working. No, he's fucking lying. Right? If you're in a ring, 1 tackle, drop down, get it again, you're working.
Your wife wouldn't accept, honey, I was just working.
I just working. It didn't even hard or nothing,
So good. So dog.
Whew. He was in like a giant fetus position when he'd sell, just huge and big elbows and hanging every time, and then he'd put the eyes up, and then the Zulus would just come, here they come. Oh, spear them, white men. And he wouldn't, what he would do? Oh, good Lord, baby Jesus. He would go, he had a sense of humor because, who did he do this to? I think it was Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase was beating the heck out of him, and you pan the NCAA crowd, and and I love him, and finally the dog puts up his head and looks at the people and goes, help me.
Oh
shit.
Boy.
Yes, who gonna beat that junkyard dog? Who gonna beat that dog? Strong, man. Help me. I don't think Ted's still the same from that one.
I was going to say, certain cities, that would not work out well for a guy that looked like Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
Rick was a guy that I think it's probably the first. It started a very bad trend in wrestling deaths. I think there may have been more before that you could school me in, but I think that was the first really high-profile situation. We have many after that. But Rick's was the first one I remember that was so tragic. So young, the complicated lifestyle, and then the tragic result.
Yeah, I was the last one to wrestle Rick. I think maybe 2 or 3 days before. One time I was staying at this Tuckasegee in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's used to have everybody stay there, 30 guys, and the guy that used to take care of Andre, he's got a Winchester. and he sings a song. Turpentine, dandelion wine. I turn the corner and I feel fine. Picking off birds on the telephone line. He's got a Winchester picking them off with this gun of mine. I got a fire in my belly, fire in my head, going higher and higher till I'm dead. 2, 3, 4. Anyway, so he's out there singing the song "Shooting Birds with a Winchester" Sunday, and Jimmy Snuka had a lady of the mat and was coming out on the balcony while we were all going for the double shot. He had one at nighttime, but he couldn't see his wife coming back in the other way. And Ray Stevens with his pit bull Willie Nelson, and we fight him, and I don't like the fighting much. And I mean, like a lot of folks. So I'm in there, and there was a guy named Charlie Fulton. And Charlie Fulton had a major heart attack and stuff, and I just happened to be in the hall. He's in a wheelchair and gowns, and they're taking him out and stuff. I said, "Fuck Charlie." And he stopped and he grabbed my hand and he said this to me. He says, "You know what happened?" I says, "No." I was trying to be like you. In '84, it was so oh God, how do you say this, man? You want to test the moral fiber of a man, give him everything he wants. And it was so much gunslinging and just so far where you look back at it and there's things you did wrong. You hurt people, you know.
But I don't think you guys saw the danger in it back then. It wasn't like it's reported on now. When Charlie Fulton said that, did he mean he was trying to party like you?
Yeah.
Trying to be like you,
man. Yeah. Trying to, you know, like one thing, I never missed the gym every day, no matter how much. I never drank before I wrestled. Hated it. Plenty after. But it was, and you know, I wasn't trying to live. I wasn't trying to impress anybody. It's just like, you're Roddy Piper. The matches are over. What are you gonna? Oh, let's get some drinks and have something to eat. And you grow into this monster. It's really, you know, you don't even realize that you come along and something will hit you. Like I was a pale, I was doing this movie right off a tour, and some pale and boom, and how's your hand? What are you talking about? No, it didn't hurt my hand. Point being, when you're banged around all night, every night, you're not the same person. You got a different tolerance, and you got to be careful what you do. And these guys in '84, every one of them, it was hard in the dressing room. I've seen a lot of guys blow up. I've seen Adrian the Sheik go to it. I've seen a lot of guys go to it. And here, there was huge mistakes being made as far as where talent was being booked. And the amount of stress, just the commute and however you were going to get there, and the fact that each night was a brand new building full of whatever, and they being WWEFG hadn't got to it. It would be like we in Pittsburgh, and they'd like get me up at 9 in the morning. Come on, and I'd make a room 212, and they'd have the Mean Gene and the whole board. I'd kick out 12 interviews, put them back to bed. Next. I mean, it never stopped, ever. I went to 90 days in a row, and they wouldn't let me go home. They put me in a hotel for like a week and a half.
Talk about taking over that territory. You guys get like Dynamite Brett and
Yeah, you know
Davey
what?
Boy.
I never worked Calgary wrestling.
Oh, right.
No, I tell you, first of all, I thought Stu Hart and I had met, and he said names that it was impossible to know, and said that he was my cousin. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, sure, Stu. And when do you want me to show up at the territory? You know, do the bus ride. But now, I think it was Wednesday, they used to do from Calgary, Saskatoon, which is 500 miles. Bus ride there, bus ride back. But before that in the day, they used to take the train. And there were some of my relatives that were employed by the CNR, Canadian National Railway. And so I came to Bret Hart's house, and I met his mom, Rose, and I fell in love with her and I bought her a dozen roses. And that's all I've ever been, but I never worked the territory.
Okay.
Because it's just like, to be honest, like, they didn't have the kind of money that I was looking for.
Did you get to know Stu at all, ever?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, I was, hey, let me show you this one. Do I have to? Yeah, I know what happens next. I scream in pain.
I was going to say, there's never good words coming out of Stu's mouth.
No, and he's light. He wants to show you. Maybe getting it. Now, do you feel that? Now, hang on. Now, I'm fucking hanging.
Were you aware how hated you were at any time during this process? You got the coconut, and then coming off the heels of this, when everyone finally, the very passionate New York fans finally come, some from countries other than the U.S., come to see Jimmy, give it to you, you break his neck. Are you aware of danger ever, or you just, you hear the crowd and you know that it's the payday you need?
That's interesting. I'm done. I'm in Mexico City, and it's a little bit of a tough town. And I've got my Halliburton, if you know what a Halliburton is.
Steel
back
case,
in the day,
yeah.
It was the thing to have.
It's a badge of honor.
There you go. So I got my Halliburton, and I'm getting out of the arena. I wasn't on last, and getting out of there. And I run out, and oh shit, I'm in Mexico City. And I look for light, and boom, and I take a turn, and there's a alley maybe that big. But I've turned and I've committed to it. At the end of the alley is 3 guys, 1 low, 2 high. I ain't turning around. And as I come to this situation, you know, I'm ready to. I got my plan. I know what to do. Now, one of the things that the old timers teach you is walk slow.
Walk slow.
Walk slow. You don't want to fuck with a guy walking slow if you don't have to. He's got something going on. He's comfy. He's not. And my point is this. 3 more guys. Walk slow. And by the time they both stood, thank you, and I went. And they knew. So.
It was how you carried yourself. You were able to get through it.
Yeah, very much so. It's that when you're doing it, first of all, you know you can, one, and you almost try to mask that with gentleness or daddish. So like if you know you can really fuck somebody up, it's not important to you anymore. There's no, and if you've been really messed up hard, you know, been beat up, which I have been many times. So, like riots and stuff, this is a strange thing. You're a nice boy. What are you doing at this? No.
Not working the San Francisco territory in 1972. That's what I'm not doing.
No shit, man. Boy, how was I supposed to know he was going to be boss? Damn.
Exactly.
Shit, I had a pair of knee pads and everything.
Sometimes it works in guys' favor. What did you know? God's sakes.
I know, damn it.
You were young.
But here's the thing,
Yeah.
is with, like even when I got stabbed, I went after the guy. And he still had the knife. It's, especially back then, it's not as controlled and sweet, and it's a show now, and good for them. Back then, you meant it to a certain thing, and foreign countries, you fucking mean it. And you walk the walk. You know, if you're Jimmy Hart, I can get it, but if you were really a first grade A top professional, you better not be afraid of fucking anything. And have that attitude. And it can be mistaken for conceit, but what really, simply put, what do? We strip down to our underwear in front of 93,000 people and then make them scream. How? Yeah, well, when you do that for a living, It's hard to get scared.
Was Gene officially kind of one of the boys?
Yeah, absolutely.
He could do the road with you, he could share the car with you, and you would treat him like you treated another worker.
Yeah, or with respect. The young guys would make him treat him with respect. When he was on, like I did a reality show with Gene, and they had like these cloaks on him, and we were in the desert. Hey, get that shit off him and get something on him where he can breathe. There's a tier respect thing. You got some young guys coming up, and Gene's and interviewing them. You better have respect for them. Or I'll give you an example of wrestling justice. It's very real in the inner circle. It was this kid, even Simon something, like worked like Richard Simmons. Simon
Dean?
Simon Dean. So I'm over in France or Germany or something, and doing these things with Simon by Piper Spitz. And I'm in the dressing room, and Simon says something like this: "Hey, I think we should do this, 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 and this on Piper's Pit." Okay. And he left, and I left. Now, the inside circle heard the disrespect. When he came back, everything he owned had the shower on as hard as it could go, and they kangaroo courted him all night. Witnesses, boom, confessions. Next morning, I went to bed. I get on the plane, and I'm bum, and Undertaker finally, of all people, I said, "Hey, dude, like, what'd Simon do to you?" "Nothing much." And then I look, oh, I'm gonna beat to hell. And crying. I mean, I don't even, crying like a baby that caught his thumb in the door. And like for 30 minutes. And I'm there, "Hey, gay, no, it's okay." And then they shipped him out of the wrestling department into the company department, and they shipped him out of there. And that's all because of me.
Well, indirectly.
Well, what it is like they won't let you fuck with me, nor would I. I'm sorry. They won't allow somebody to disrespect me as I wouldn't allow someone to disrespect somebody that I should be taking care of.
No coincidence, I guess, that David's debuting when Bruno's returning.
Yeah.
Bruno, do something for me. I'll help you kid out.
There you go.
Bruno comes back as commentator. Now, is David just there as a favor for Bruno? Did you feel the kid had any merit on his own?
You know what? Real great kid.
Okay.
Worked his buns off in the gym. How you gonna follow that? You know how you gonna follow Bruno Sammartino? You need to get in another business. But you know, of course, and so I'm doing the same thing with my own son right now, 24 years old. Go do something else. I mean, it's Bruno Sammartino. It'll be over your head your whole life. So at that time, I'm sure that David wanted to be it, and I'm sure that he saw it as, oh wow, I can be famous like my dad. Not that that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And again, David's a great kid, but yeah, is a favor because Bruno in the office didn't get along at all. So it was
What was the locker room perception of David? Was he ever taken seriously by the other workers?
He was taken with a certain amount of respect, having to grow up under Bruno for that, and he was a respectful kid. He didn't try to throw his weight, which was good because they got a bunch of guys that wouldn't give a shit. But he didn't have the frame of It's sad. There's a lot of second, third generations that, you know, if you're the first one on, it's like, how you gonna beat Moses when he goes parts the Nile? I don't know. You know, it's a tough gig.
It's a real thing.
It's tough. It's a real. You know, everything we're talking about here. 84. When you're talking about 84, everybody was the real deal. To, however you wanted to find that meaning, like, there's nobody there you would want to push around or try to. And there was nobody there that didn't stand up 110% for the business. There was nobody there that missed a shot. We're talking the higher echelon there. So it was a very stand up. What'd you say? You better, you know, Larry Henning, palm guy. Yeah.
How'd you get on with Bruno at this time?
I loved him. I had to do a Piper spin with him. And so
He didn't take offense to the Italian stuff.
You know what he did? He didn't know what I said. On my way, my car tire got flat, and all the way here it went whop, whop, whop. Holy shit! His eyes lifted, the comb over stood up. It's a long friggin' night, I'll tell you. But worse than that, like 26 years later in Toronto, having my son Colt, and I wanted Bruno's an unbelievable man. And I said, excuse me, Mr. Sammartino, this is my son, Colt. Bruno looks at my son and says, your dad called me a whoop.
First thing out of his mouth?
26 years later, Bruno. And he started laughing.
Oh.
I have way too much respect for that man.
Good.
When Bobby come in, you know, he's so good at what he does. And this is how good he is when he comes in, you'd think it would shake up the whole roster because people would be job scared. But when Bobby does an interview, every interview he does, you end up talking about his opponent as much as you talk about him. Because Bobby's a true blue, learned from grade kindergarten all the way through as a master's. So he was always happily seen and everybody around him. He's a pain in the ass, though. You know, he keeps that up. He's worse in the dressing room or in the car. He'll never stop. He got funnier stuff in the car.
So what we see on TV is what you guys were getting in the locker room.
Oh, it's worse. He says, yeah, I asked Piper, what comes after a sentence? He said, parole. You know, just bomb, but it just never stops, man.
Talk about working against Hogan politically.
Okay.
You got time to go over a finish.
Yeah.
You guys both respectful of your roles?
Okay, it was a very difficult time, 84. Hogan's there for Hogan. Now, all of a sudden, what we have here is failure to communicate. As everything's going Hogan's way and Cheerios and happy letters and stuff, and then there's Roddy, you know, the bad boy that's fueling the fire. But also, I've got lunch boxes and ice cream bars and bath towels. And so the first time you're going to put me against Hogan, I think the first time was a war to settle the score. And what they wanted, Hogan was a champion. And what they wanted to do is they wanted me to take a dive for Hogan. No. First of all, it's going all over the world. My lunchbox has got to sell too. Now, again, remember, New York territory is a 6-month turnaround, one good guy. That's their mentality. But it's like fighting City Hall. Now, I tell you, I don't know anybody that's gone in the garden and said, no, I ain't doing it. And in Wrestlemania with Mr. T, I knocked Mr. T, but he's a pretty salty guy. Muhammad Ali, who I had hip tossed about 10 years earlier, pretty salty guy. And you know, Hogan, Orndorff, a lot of potential variables there, variable word. And,
But if you say no for the right reason, Roddy, doesn't a promoter have to go, you know what, he's smart. It will keep the value of that lunchbox high for me as the promoter.
Okay, but here's the thing. For what Vince had no respect for was, I was already over before I got to his territory. So, okay, there's Hogan the first time we're gonna meet, and right away beat me. When in 5, 7, 8 weeks, I'm the hottest heel they've ever had. I've got doctors and lawyers watching. We've spread, and we're on Saturday Night Live once a month. We're doing all kinds of, and just that. Here, let me give you the best example too. At the end of WrestleMania 1, everybody's gone, you know, you can imagine how many people are outside in the garden. And we go to where there's a circle, it goes up like this, and your limousine takes you up there, boom. And so we're all done, and we're waiting for everybody to get out, trying, and we come down, and our car's gone, our limousine's gone. There's no cars. The only thing there is there is a policeman on a horse. And Bobby and I have walked down looking for it, and I swear to God, Bobby's standing up. I'm at where the horse's head is with the policeman. Bobby's on the back, and the horse is going to the bathroom, and when it hits the floor, Bobby goes, shit. And it's us. Outside, 2,000 people.
Right. Why?
No shit. You know why? Because he doesn't realize that it's the bad guy that draws the money. They had already had a pre-planned party for T and Hogan, and they were all into that. The guys that made him, they didn't even give him a fucking ride.
But Vince McMahon, second generation, around the business his whole life, learned from his father. How does he not know? I know that. I've never been in the fucking business ever.
Because I think if I had to figure it out, because Rod said no.
Oh, so it was.
And then when I went and did They Live, Vince came to me and said, I'll give you the same amount of money and give me 4 weeks, I'll have you another movie. I said, not with John Carpenter directing, you won't. And when I went, he sent a message he said, you tell, through my lawyer, you tell Piper that Hogan and I are the only true blue WWFers. And that's what started the dissension between Vince and I. We actually do like each other a lot.
But back here, when you're riding high, and you do begin to say, no, you can't job me to Hogan yet, because we got more to do.
Yeah.
More to do. Rather than respecting that you want to extend the angle, he got angry.
Yeah, well, yes. Now, from his point of view, he put everything he had on the first WrestleMania. So I suppose he wanted Hogan to beat the hottest guy he had to make Hogan not hotter. But you go like, and I finally said to him, Vince is driving me. I said, "Fuck, man, you tell me, Hulk Hogan versus Piper, or Hulk Hogan versus Orndorff. You tell me which is going to draw money." I never heard anything more about it.
They ever make you any long-term promises about the title?
Oh yeah, man, yeah. Like if I don't go and do They Live, you know, they give me the strap, and I had Hurts from TBS offering me their one, but like, it's funny because it's really interesting. They go out of their way, the WWE now. I don't know, I'll make it up, every 6 weeks, somebody will say, Roddy Piper, the greatest wrestler never to hold the WWE championship. And it's made a martyr out of me, but plus it's like, it's the kindest thing you could say.
You didn't need it.
Come on, you give people titles so they can get over it. And everybody deep. So and now they found out what they've done. So it's cool.
What happens is you've got promoters like Jarrett and Gagne and Crockett who agree, how's this going to work, to put their egos aside and work together to go against Vince. They get the house up in East Rutherford, and they're running WWF F cities. Are you guys, first of all, aware that this is happening? Is it on your radar at all? You're riding high.
Yep.
And you're very,
Yep. Koloff was one of the guys that were signed to him. Do you have a pen on you? Just on you? Don't
I have
go
one
away.
right here.
Just a second. So, Eddie Einhorn, he had football teams or whatever.
Sure.
And just leave it.
Okay.
And so he gives him contracts. I'm positive Ivan Koloff was one of the contracts.
Okay.
I don't think at that time I was on the big head drawing list for him to give me a thing, because Koloff had gone through the Garden as a champion, and I had still done more West Coast, and I was working. So they weren't actually reaching out to me too hard.
They didn't, huh?
Not
Surprised.
too hard, no. More like, Ivan was hot then, and Billy Graham, and, people that had.
They actually got
been-
Backlund. They
Yeah,
got Backlund
that's right,
at the
that's
time.
right, that's
Zbyszko and
So this is what happened.
Flair.
Finally, every move Einhorn, he'd go do like this. He'd get cut off by, WWF. And he'd get. And when Eddie Einhorn first started, he needed employees. So a guy came and begged him for a job, and he did a great job. And he got right in there with Eddie and, shadowed him and got everything Eddie did. And this was his name. That's why he's got a job for life.
A long-time WWE employee, I will say.
That's why he's got a job for life. He was sent there.
Really?
Yes, sir. That's a fact. Everything. I don't know, you just give it to the mouse and it carries the note over.
Wow. We've got Albano, Blassie, Fuji, Valiant, Heenan. We got a lot of mouthpieces.
Yeah.
Were there that many guys that couldn't work the stick, or
Who were they managing? Who was Jimmy Valiant managing?
Brutus? Exclusively Brutus at the time? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can see because Brutus is just a five.
Well, why not put Brutus with Jimmy Hart or whoever else they had there?
Jimmy Hart would have been better. Who else was it?
Blassie was still there before he left.
Yeah, Blassie. Fuge kind of formed an alliance in there. Captain formed an alliance. The Wizard.
Heenan was there. at the
Yeah,
time.
Heenan. I think they just kind of were throwing them in and see what was working.
Did they all get along, the managers, or was there competition among them to be the top manager?
No matter what you hear, and no matter what they say, and I'm sure they'll swear on the Bible and mean it, it's one of the most competitive sports in the world, because nobody is allowed to go up and actually challenge anybody. You're just allowed to do it. And it's a crazy way to make a living. And so as much as those managers got along, like the very famous Fuji Tanaka story, they didn't get along.
Just eating the dog?
Yeah.
George Scott was a big, long-time supporter of Valentine's, and I think it was even Greg that told us that it was he that went to Vince and fought to get him the strap. A worthy strap holder, Greg?
Absolutely. Greg's dad, in 30 seconds, changed my entire career. I was in Houston with Paul Bosch, and Johnny Valentine, he was on last, and he always went a long time, like 45, 50 minutes. Real hard, pull up, hard hitter, tough guy. And I'm in my street clothes. I'm about 167 pounds. And he's coming back from his match, and he's opening the door to come in the dressing room. And I was kind of trying to get out, and a little bit in his way. And he snatched me by the throat, and he slammed me up against me. He's gurgling me. And he gets really close to me. And this is what he says to me. I can't make you believe wrestling's for real, but I sure in hell can make you believe I am. And he let me go. I based half my career on that. And Greg Valentine, he's a world champion.
First of all, is there a bit of a personal offense to you saying, here's a car I built, you're driving it now? What's the story?
Interesting. You see, like Blackjack and I never looked at any of them with envy or jealousy. I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound terrible on my part, but Jesse Ventura's Body Shop, the Blackjack's Barbecue, Jake the Snake Pit, the Flower Shop, Brother Love.
Yep.
You know what? Because the more they went, the more they proved that they can't touch me. So bring it on. And I wish you all the luck in the world, but I had an extreme amount of confidence.
We talked about the partying aspect of hanging with Bob and being shot with a taser gun.
Yeah.
Is this your idea to marry yourself to Bob on camera now too? You got to deal with him after the matches. Now he's going to be behind you constantly.
Well, I had done a good run with him in Charlotte, not against him, but he was kind of in our clique there, their clique. I was in their clique. I'll tell you, Bobby Orton. I used to have to tell him this. Bobby Orton is so good. I'd say, Bobby, you got to make mistakes sometimes. That way they can tell how good you are. He gets guys in different holds or body or suplexes, and everything is perfect. Because Bobby had incredible odds to overcome. From his dad, holy cow. He's a hell of a man. And he's a tough puppy. So I needed somebody that they said they're going to watch my back. I knew somebody wasn't going to get through. And because we had to take these Piper's Pits out live, and a lot of riots. And he never, you know, a lot of times you'll have a riot and you're going, where'd he go? Bobby was there every time.
So that was someone you chose because you knew he could legitimately stand with you if ever anything happened.
Yeah, and he's a man's man. You know, and I think Randy is a wonderful example of what a great father Bobby is.
Were you ever afraid that it would diminish the legitimacy of the toughness of Roddy Piper to be seen on camera with the bodyguard?
Nah, never even crossed my mind. No, because I always had a saying, it's not for my safety, it's for yours. I don't need a bodyguard, you do. But if you want to let me just fly for a while, I'll show you. I didn't have those, you know, I know where you're coming from. In the industry, big time, there's different ego departments. And I've been told like I have a huge ego. And it's ego, confidence, but not like for the stuff you're saying.
Okay.
Like, hey, I really wish you all the luck in the world. The shot, but okay. But I'll tell you, I got called and said from WWE, and this is a little belligerent, but I got a call and said, listen, we're happy to tell you that you won. I said, won what? So, well, we took a poll and everything. You're now down as the greatest history in professional wrestling, or in WWE.
Greatest
heel in the now it's in the history of professional wrestling. And of course, is that all? Exactly what I said.
What they want you to do?
They wanted me to come to Stanford to do the magazine.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, well, we'd like you to do magazines. Oh, can't you come here? Will you? Then, well, yeah, of course I am. Because you know what? I was so fucking far ahead of everybody. I am. All right. So I suppose that's egotistical. If you, yeah.
It's only egotistical if it's not true.
But it's a good. I don't like that. But again, it comes with. Because you said if they saw Roddy in a different light, not so tough, or bodyguard.
Because of the bodyguard.
Yeah, yeah. And I think where I'm at right now, I got asked this question: what is it like to go around and people say that that you're a legend or an icon, all that stuff, and said, how do you want to be remembered? I want to be remembered as being like a really good dad, and.
Well, that should always be first, sure.
Yeah.
But maybe secondarily. I'll tell you what you'll be remembered as later. I have an idea.
Okay.
Is this a conscious effort to groom him to take Snooker's place? There's some issues with Jimmy, and maybe they're seeing ahead that Jimmy's not going to be around all the time.
Yeah. The Tonga Kid was a test run at Jimmy passing the torch, and at the same time, can the kid handle it? At the same time, you're dealing with a clique there, so if you put something into the kid, you're putting something else into the clique, and it made for some great matches from this perspective. Is Jimmy would be by ringside and I'd be wrestling the Tonga Kid, and there was one high spot that was really great. Was Tonga Kid had me headlocked, so I threw him off and I leapfrogged him as he was coming, and I stayed the same way, and he's coming back. I leapfrogged him backwards. And I turned to Jimmy because he was hitting the other rope. When I turned back, he had stopped, and boom, chopped my head off. That garden just went, because that's Jimmy's thing, right? Just out of control. But the kid, sweet kid, but they like him to keep his helmet on so he doesn't have to lick the windows on the bus,
Wow.
Sweet kid, got hips on him, good childbearing hips.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
But he wasn't someone who could go the distance.
Nah, because I had to babysit him through the whole thing. So to work a program with him, if he didn't have Jimmy by his side there, he carried no credibility.
We talked about Andre it's a bit of a compliment if he lets you get that offense. Now, he's letting himself get his hair cut. Now, he didn't like Stud,
No.
but he must like Patera to lay down and get his hair cut off.
I think he had a lot of respect. Kenny was the first man ever in the world that we know of to pick up 500 pounds over his head. And I think that Andre just naturally, had hey, you got a guy pick up 500 pounds. Okay, you could probably hurt me. Who was the other guy that was with him?
Well, it was Stud and Patera, and Bobby Heenan was orchestrating.
Yeah,
I
I'll tell you what, because Stud made the deathly mistake of saying, I'm the real giant. I think I'm going to get rid of the real giant, then I could be the giant, might have been a better way to put it. Because I watched the match in Madison Square Garden with Andre and Big John Studd, and I've had easier street fights and lost. It was brutal. He just smiled and beat the shit out of him, man. Whoa.
Lou was maybe known to walk around with a large bottle of a clear liquid in the locker room before going to the ring, and was always, from what we hear, a constant source of strained patience for Vince Jr. Was he as much of a handful as we hear?
Well, Yeah. Yeah, you see, when Senior was alive, Senior said to Captain, he said, as long as you're alive, you'll have a job here. Well, Lou carried that on with Junior. And then, you know, and I've done worse than all of them put together, so I'm not throwing no stones at all. But, you know, Cap would, you know, you're in the garden and it's been 3 weeks, you've been mowing your lawn and you start talking the talk, you know, hey, no, fuck you, hey, fuck you too. And it just, it got old, and there was a lot of different additives back in those days. And, you know, when you're, no matter what you say, I don't care how long you've been around. When I'm about time to work, you know, leave me alone. I don't need to hear anybody. I want to go away and do what I do. And he invades that. That makes it a problem.
With other workers too, you mean? Lou would just cross that boundary?
Yeah, because like you and I would be going friends. You go, hey, did you see that, Brad? Yeah, you see that? I was doing the Hollywood squares with him. Holy cow, so we're both sharing the same square because we're such big stars. And so the moment goes to commercials, and he doesn't know the mics are hot. He looks at me and goes, oh, look at the bazoomas on that one. Well, I'll get up now and leave. No, I'll go. I love
Consistent with their perception of what a wrestler would say anyway. Though,
yeah,
so it's okay.
which is exactly what I was trying not to do.
This is to be with Junkyard Dog, but he's injured during a match, and instead it's with Sal Balomo. But you push him down, he does the rollover. But before this, you call some people from the audience to be guests, and you mess with them a little bit. And jokes about New Jersey and the Turnpike. Meanwhile, you're living in Woodbridge, nobody knows that, but whatever. Who are the fans? What are they told beforehand that they're in for when they come up to be in the pit?
Nothing. I didn't.
And why would they do it?
That's a good question. You know, I didn't. Sometimes I'd hear something. Come on. I never. They weren't plants. It's just. You know, it's like you're not going to be able to fool me. You know, go bring it on.
Right.
And then once they get in there, like I had one, you know, so my grammar was wrong.
I've driven, I've never drove was the line. You said, have you ever drove down the Turnpike? He said, I've driven. I've never driven.
You know,
and that was all spur of the moment. That was all improv, right there.
Yeah, and actually I cut it short. I said something like, I'd pay someone to do it with me. I said, Bobby, get him out of here.
Right.
It's because otherwise it was going to get into a tit for tat, and then like, I don't want him standing up and let's not go no. You know. I had a lot of people hit the ring a lot of times. Once they're in the ring, they're yours. You know, so.
Did you like doing the live ones with the audience right there?
Oh yeah, bring it on. Oh yeah, I get it. There wasn't. You didn't have 2 minutes and 54 seconds, and you had time to let it breathe, and you know, really.
That's true. Yeah, you could go 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
First of all, was it a shoot wedding? Did
I heard that they actually did get married.
Because I know Elmer's was. They did the Elmer thing where you came out on Saturday Night Main Event.
And the other one wasn't. One of them was. Yeah, Elmer's, I had to go, excuse me, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Excuse me, Arnold, I got to go disagree with a wedding. That's true.
All right, if you're going to pick someone to get married on TV, why Paul Vachon?
Oof. I guess, you know, to give everybody else hope. When Cindy won, she was the female vocalist of the year. And when she won her award, is that the Grammys? Is it the Grammys or the Emmys? What's the Grammys, right? So she's doing her speech on the Grammys. I don't know, I'm guessing probably goes into 80 countries back then. And the last thing she says is, Roddy Piper, you're going to get yours. Kiss of death. Kiss of death. And what was I answering?
Dick Clark and the presentation of the gold record.
So she had got a gold record. So that had happened. And then I got the gold record for Girls Want to Have Fun. That she wanted to present to Captain. So boom. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's when I kicked her.
Yeah, I mean, this creates a big melee here. You body slammed Dave Wolf. Did you enjoy that at least?
He's ass heavy. Yeah, but yeah, I did. But what happened was, there's an expression in our business called red heat and white heat. And you don't want white heat. And we were really, really close to, I actually did a couple of things to tone it down a bit while we were doing it. Because something like Captain Boom and Captain Thing and Dick Clark, I don't know, he went, please don't hurt me, and like started running.
So he didn't know it was coming?
No, nobody did. I didn't know I was going to do it.
You did? Oh,
no,
really?
It's not like that. You know, like I might have a plan and share something, but I don't know, like stay there, just stay there, kind of thing. But what happened was this. Just a second. So, boom, and then Dick Clark got so scared and ran, and I think T came and boom, and then she just came from here, under the rope, something like that.
You flung her off.
Yeah, I just flung her because, like, girl just wants to have fun, kicking her. And then the next thing I see is a New York City policeman with a gun. And he's all of a sudden, if I remember, everybody's out of the ring or so on aprons, and there's me and this guy, and now he's like a deer in the headlights. He's in the middle of the ring, and here comes his buddies. Well, we got white heat now.
Yeah, but a compliment in some bizarre way to the angle.
For the cop he just lost it. He was right like at ringside, and and then buddies, and then of course the WWE suits and stuff. That was all.
They come into the schmaz.
Yeah. But to have a uniformed city policeman, that set the tone for it, and then it got nuts.
This is the precursor to not just the Water Settle Score, but WrestleMania, really.
Yeah.
Are you planned that far out for the following March?
Am I planned
for something called WrestleMania? Roddy, you're going to be doing this big thing we have at the Garden in 3 months.
No, they're not that far ahead.
Okay.
They were trying to figure out, what do we got? What are we doing? What's going on here? Who's doing what, when, where? And we've got something here, and they're more in that phase of it. That's working. What? More of a, we're building, more excitement than.
So they're still just seeing how far they can go with it.
Yeah, they're still testing, because it's never been, nothing like this has never been tried. And so they're still trying to find out just what do we got here, and then WrestleMania, I can't remember how the name came about. I was told not too long ago.
Well, who takes credit for it? We've heard a few things. I think Schultz actually tried to take credit for it.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'd heard too.
I think Dave says that he said it in a car ride, and then suddenly it was called that.
Dave Schultz kept saying that I stole his angle with T, and so whatever.
I didn't realize he was hosting the pit, drawing all those audiences all that time.
So he were in L.A., and Schultz is in L.A., and T's in L.A., and Schultz is playing tough guy, and there's those LA cops, they're all 104, they just doing it for the, the extra whatever, and Chief Jay Strongbow found out that Schultz was going to try to do something with T, so he gave the head cop a heads up and nothing, and all of a sudden Schultz took off of the ring. He was going to deck D. And these 103-year-old men, I don't know, like this, boom, down, hog-tied feet, legs, hands, and carrying him out like a pig.
Yeah,
just
got
like
arrested
that.
for that. I remember that.
Yeah, just like that. Boom. They.
Was that the Forum? It was a house show, right? It wasn't a taping.
No, it was either the Sports Arena or the.
Oh, the
Forum.
Sports Arena. It was the Sports Arena.
Sports
Yeah,
Arena.
yeah. They showed up at the Garden with cameras to do an expose. So, you know, they never tell you they're going to do the expose. Probably they want to cover wrestling. So, but you guys probably have your guard up.
Pretty good.
And of course, Schultz rather hits John Stahl. Take me through your recollection of that whole evening from them showing up.
I was probably maybe 10 feet away when it happened. Maybe 15. Then I remember Schultz and Stossel and in the hallway close to the entrance to the seats. And this is how it happened. It wasn't Schultz. Stossel's sitting down, he's got one of his cronies, he's got the camera and the microphone, and he's interviewing Schultz, and he's trying to, you know, have some kind of class to, oh, is it a sport, and Schultz is burying him, you know, boom, boom, and Stossel says, break it down, give this thing to me. Can you hear me? Wrestling fake, pow. Huh, how's that? Pow. And he says, I hear trains. Yeah, and he just crawled and whimpered like a little
So
dog.
Schultz was watching the interviews and said,
yeah, like
I want an opportunity.
No, it's like this. So Schultz, we're in the hallway. I'm over here off camera, and like Stossel's sitting there, and here's the cameraman, and here's Schultz, and there's the interviewer, and the interviewer's going, so it's entertainment, is that right? Well, what do you mean entertainment? So, well, like when you guys, what do you mean? Stossel, shut it down. Stossel comes up and he takes the microphone. Turn on, is this thing on, yeah? It's all fake, isn't it? Bomb.
Oh, so there was another reporter that was originally doing it that Stossel thought was being too soft.
He was trying to be a gentleman, soft, and then, okay, I'm gonna play big shot, and Schultz just, two good cuffs, too.
Did everybody in that hallway agree with what had just happened?
You know, yeah, we popped, but at the same time, we knew it was probably a really bad thing for business.
Was Vince in the vicinity?
He was close enough to monitor it.
Did Vince maybe say something to Dave like, quote, go out there and blast them, end quote?
Well, if Vince had told me that, I would have done a better job.
Would have cost you more, though.
Would have cost you more, yeah. But the guy deserved it, man. The guy deserved it.
Did that expose on 2020 damage your business?
No. Because, like Eddie Mansfield, he's always been a piece of shit. And, you know, it's... What are you telling them? Like, is wrestling fake? You really fucking asked me that in 213. It's almost. Can we get past that question now, and get into the art? And back then, when they were doing it, and there was all the huff to luff, I think it made people come even more to see if they could catch us.
Interesting.
Maybe bleeding or whatever all this hubbub is about. You know, as long as you spell your name right, any press is good press kind of thing. Some of the guys have hurt the business of their conduct and such. I think I might be guilty. I'm guilty hurting my own business, not the wrestling business.
Well, this brings us to the end of our journey here on a little time machine.
You did your homework, and you did a really good job. I enjoyed this with you.
I got to thank you for a few things. Firstly, for bringing me to the matches a lot of times as a kid. It was something that I wish I cared about and loved today. It's not the same, as everyone knows. my teachers probably wouldn't thank you for my mouth, which I emulated very well, thanks to you. But you know what? For every worker out there that tries to put so much emphasis on the diving from here and doing this and boom, going 100 miles an hour right from the bell, and I'm gonna, you know, put you on a noose and throw you over the rope, who forgets that they've got that, and that can make them a ton of money and make them a legend, and that's what you have shown a lot of people who unfortunately don't pay enough attention to it, but should.
That's very kind. Thank you for
very much.
having me. I very much
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Professional bunch of guys.